Okay then, and now we are going to move on to today's featured presentation. Today's presentation, Essentials to Monitoring Sybase IQ Performance. Our presenters today are courtesy of Sybase and Bradmark. Bradmark is an ISUG Platinum partner. We're much appreciative for their support over the years and their continued support. Bradmark is a global ISV founded in 1981 and serves 50 of the Fortune 100 and 200 of the Fortune 500 as Bradmark customers. Has been a 6-year partner with Sybase and the strategic partners, offering best-in-class technology and supports Sybase's entire product stack, both current and past releases. Bradmark specializes in infrastructure management, focusing on providing top-tier monitoring solutions, not just for Sybase, but also other databases such as Oracle DB2 and Microsoft SQL Server. And at that point, I'm going to hand over the presentation to today's first speaker, Rob Verschoor from Sybase. Rob, over to you.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Today is actually quite a special day for IQ because there's two things that are happening today that are worth mentioning. The first one is the fact that today IQ 15.4 is being released, and even though this is not, directly the topic of this webcast, I thought it was relevant to just mention this anyway, because IQ 15.4 really is the next step in the evolution of IQ from not just an analytics database to really an analytics platform. One of the things that you will see in IQ 15.4, it is available now because I actually downloaded it myself tomorrow from the Project Download Center, so you can too if you have a support contract. The thing about IQ 15.4, one of the things you'll see is that there will be a lot of third-party vendors that have packages that are certified on IQ. Some of the things that you will see more about is the fact that the combination of external user-defined functions plus distributed query processing that we've already had, that in IQ 15.4 this reaches new heights in that there are new possibilities to do things and to distribute queries over multiple nodes in a multiplex cluster. For example, one of the things you can do is use MapReduce functionality or Hadoop to basically split up big data analytics problems into smaller parts that get processed by the cluster, and 15.4 is allowing you to do this. Another thing in 15.4 is the fact that there's this standard called the PMML standard, where analytics packages like MicroStrategy, SCS, SPSS, and you name them, can save a model in a PMML format, and then you can actually run that in IQ using a PMML plugin, which is really opening up a huge range of new possibilities for IQ. And lots of other things. IQ 15.4 has, for example, this has been much requested, a better handling of varchar data longer than 256 bytes, compresses it much better. And also important, there's now an express edition of IQ. I'm not sure that can be downloaded already right now, but it will be soon. And basically, that express edition is free for download, has no time limitation, has all options enabled, but the limitations are that you cannot store more than 5 gigabytes of data space in it, and you cannot use it for production. But if you have some trial project, for example, and you want to just see how IQ works, you can now just use the Express Edition as a trial. Well, so that is really an important big step for IQ today. Another big step, rather for me personally, is the fact that my long-requested IQ Quick Reference Guide has just come out today. For those of you who are familiar with my quick reference guides for Replication Server and ASZ, the green and the purple book, as they are known, there will now be a pink book as well, which covers IQ 15.0 up till 15.4, and that's not quite a coincidence that that's today as well. So if you're familiar with my other quick reference guides, you will find this one is very similar in terms of, sort of the coverage of all the features and the things that you need to work with IQ. More about that on my website. So let's move to Bradmark Surveillance. I think one of the things I really like about surveillance is how it does a great job of pulling information about IQ together from multiple sources. As you know, there are many places in IQ where you have to look for bits and pieces of information as a DBA to get a picture of what the status of your IQ server is really like. For example, you may want to look at things like the IQ message file. You need to know settings like how much cache has been configured. So you may need to look at the startup switches that have been used. There are stored procedures like SPIQ status, SPIQ DB space that you may need to run in order to get an idea of resource utilization right now. And so on and so on. And one of the nice things about surveillance is that it actually does this for you, and it presents it to you in a very DBA-friendly format. One of the places where this is especially true is with IQ Multiplex. If you have Multiplex, and especially in 15.3 with distributed query processing, where you can have logical servers that map to subsets of the multiplex nodes, it gets kind of complex, or can get kind of complex, to really understand what you have configured. Surveillance, as you will see in a demo later down, has a very nice graphical representation of what your multiplex cluster looks like and how you have defined your various logical servers. So, and there's many other things, and I think my bottom line is that the reason why I would recommend surveillance is that it allows you as a DBA to be much more efficient and to perform your DBA tasks more efficiently, making better use of your time. In the end of the day, that is what you will be measured on. So, I've always liked surveillance. I really like the ASE plugin for surveillance, and I work personally with Bradmark on getting that to work. Same for the replication server monitoring function, and the same applies to the IQ monitoring function. If you're an IQ user, and I think everybody here on this call is, surveillance is something you should look into. You already know that, because otherwise you would not have dialed into this call. So let me hand it over here to Ed Stangler of Bradmark, who will take you to surveillance as it is today. Ed.
Thank you, Rob.
Actually, it's going to come back to me, I think, to run the two-part questions. Is that right, Ed?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
Okay. So we do have a couple of polling questions we'd like some audience participation on. And the first question is, what's the biggest challenge that you have in your Sybase IQ environment today? Quickly identifying and addressing critical resource issues, such as other versions and main/temp storage, and monitoring IQ multiplex servers, monitoring query plans and SQL bottlenecks, auditing, unplanned downtime, or if you don't have any significant challenges, let us know that too. You can also click the no vote at the bottom of the screen just to register yourself as having participated, even if you don't have a comment on the poll itself. So we'll give folks a moment to respond to that poll, please. And we still got some answers coming in. We'll give you guys about 5 or 6 more seconds.
So, Mike, it's interesting to see that the two main categories clearly are the red and the yellow ones, which is monitoring query plans and identifying things like temporary storage, which is good to know that surveillance doesn't cover those.
Great. Thank you very much for responding to that poll. And we do have a second poll before we hand over to Ed, and that is just very basically, which version of IQ are you guys currently running? One of the 12 series or one of the 15 series? And I guess nobody except Rob is running 15.4 just yet. So we'll give you guys 10, 15 seconds to put in your responses to that. Again, you can click the no vote at the bottom of the screen just to register your vote at this point. And a few more seconds. And we'll go ahead and close the poll again on that one. Looks like 15.2 is the winner, with 15.3 and the 12 series are very close runners-up. At least they were close runners-up, not anymore, I guess. So thank you very much for your participation in those polls, everybody. Much appreciated. And at this point, we will now hand over to Ed from Bradmark, and Ed will take us through the surveillance portion of today's meeting. Over to you, Ed.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Again, if you just joined us, if you can mute on your line, that would be very helpful. Also, for the demo later, it'd be good to maximize the information on the screen there. I think you can do that with the buttons on the lower right portion of your screen. So, IQ comes with the SEC module, which provides some very basic information for IQ. But in order to get the full-blown monitoring of IQ done, the kinds of stuff that you'd expect for monitoring and for performance and for other various metrics, you really need something like Bradmark Surveillance to do the full-blown monitoring of Sybase IQ. So in addition to the excellent new book from Rob covering the IQ, various things on IQ, Bradmark Surveillance is a very important part of making sure that your IQ environment is running at peak performance. Some of the things that surveillance does, some of the feature set, as you can see here, are things like real-time diagnostics. We monitor over 2,500 metrics, monitor the operating system as well, identify resource usage. We have rule-based event management, an automated event management system, a lot of different rules set up so that you can do different events off of different types of metrics, covering all sorts of areas. You can get alerts and event notifications if the network is down or if your database is down or various other things. As well as you can also have some sort of response to those events with our alert system. We also have data flashback technology so that you can actually go back in time on an issue. You can go back in time on a window and determine the root cause of an issue, do a postmortem analysis on things, and you can correlate different windows at that time. So you can go back, let's say, an hour ago, or you can go back 24 hours ago or a week ago, right inside the same interface that you use for real-time monitoring, which increases efficiency for determining the root cause of issues. We also have a data repository that you can export data to so that you can access historical data through SQL or through reporting or other types of ways. And, of course, we have reporting built into the product with over 350 automated reports using Crystal Decisions technology. Briefly, our surveillance architecture is it's a client-server architecture for our legacy client, but we also have a web interface to the product as well now. And you can see here we have a service called our SAM running up on the server. This is a listener, and we have different services running underneath the SAM. We have the analyzer service, which is looking at rules, looking at metrics, looking at thresholds, trying to find out if there's an event that needs to be generated. The event then gets generated and sent over to our alerter service. The alerter service actually translates that event into an action, so it's a pop-up, an email. You can run an external script. You can integrate with OpenView, Tivoli, Netcool. You can send SNMP traps. And in our latest version, our 4.4 product that's coming out, we have additional, you can integrate with web services, and you can also even script our product, and you can also send bulk SMS messages and things like that. So a lot of different actions are available. And we also have collector agents that actually get the information, the metrics, for the operating system, for Sybase IQ. We also monitor Sybase ASE and Sybase Rep Server and other products as well. Each of these services are getting their metrics based on collection definitions. We have a lot that come out of the box that cover a wide range of things, from CPU to disk to connections to SQL. As well as you can also extend the product with your own collections called user-defined collections, and you can do that through SQL. You can run SQL, you can run stored procedures, you can scrape log files, you can run external scripts and get the outputs. A lot of different ways that you can create a collection. You can put that in the product and it becomes a first-class object in the product, and then you can write rules based off of it. You can export the data, things like that. And, of course, all the metric data you can also send to our local cache repository. This is primarily a set of flat files used for flashback, which I mentioned earlier. But you can also optionally export that data to a central repository database. This can be a real database like like an ASE or an Oracle or whatever. And then you can also then do reporting off of that using our Crystal Decisions software to do the reports, or you can also access it through SQL or through your own reporting system as well. So briefly, a little bit more about event management. Typically, surveillance sets up different alerts to do things, and you can do that on a central server, for example. You can have one place where all the different servers are forwarding their events on to one place that you can set up for email, SNMP traps, or whatever you'd like. You can also use it as a nice convenient way for DBAs or for other people to log into the server, the central server, and then browse the other servers as if they're local to those servers. You can also monitor the up and down status of these various servers using the central alert server. Of course, you can also have each individual server have alerts, or you can do an additional thing on those servers. So it's a very flexible system. You can do either, or you can do both of these types of ways of setting up alerts. And again, we have a historical repository, a central repository. Each of our SAMs running out on the different boxes are collecting data to a local repository, which is a set of flat files. And then they can optionally export to a central database. We have ways to get around DMZ issues or any sort of firewall issues. And then we also have a reporting system that can go into there and generate reports. And then not pictured on here, we also have the ability to do a reduction on the central repository database automatically to control the size of that central database as well. So we'll go ahead and go into a demonstration of the surveillance product. So here I've gone into the Windows client interface of our product, which is the older part of our product to go into in terms of an interface. And you can see here I've logged into a central server called Stangler, and I have other different SAMs that are running out on the network. Some are in different domains. And underneath my SAM, I have different services, the alerter service, the analyzer service. I have an operating system monitor. I have an IQ monitor, that kind of thing. And underneath here, we have what we call our entities. And our entities are basically connections to the database. I have an IQ 15.3 entity, and I have a 12.7 entity. So I saw that in our poll results, we saw that still a very large portion of our audience here is running 12x. And Bradmark does support both version 12 all the way back to 12.6, as well as the latest versions. We'll be having support for IQ 15.4 next week. And of course, we fully support 15.3, 15.2, and the earlier versions. So before I go into some of the real-time monitoring, I'd like to touch on some of the events that we generate alerts on. Just go into here for a moment to the IQ rules. So here are rules for IQ, some of them. And you can see out of the box become configured to look for things like blocking situations on the coordinator, cache miss percent, whether DB spaces are offline, whether they're getting full. We have different alerts on critical or warning. We have file sizes, if they're growing too fast or if they're too large, that kind of thing. We also have things like main storage percent, physical memories exceeding a certain amount, message errors, other versions, if other versions is growing too large, buffer percent, temp storage percent. A lot of essential areas to monitor, we have the ability to automatically alert on those things. And so, for example, on a DB space growing too much, we can go in here to the alert, and we can set a threshold. In this case, it's 95% full, and we'll get an alert. We can set that to whatever you'd like, and you can also customize it with various other messages and different types of conditions as well. So a very flexible system that can go into our alerter system, and our alerter system actually has an event handler. You can set up different event handlers for different types of events that are coming in. You can have different handlers for different servers. So if you have a central server, you can have different ways to handle different servers that are coming in. And you can have different types of actions. Here we have a pop-up action that's being executed on an event. But you can also set up all sorts of different other things, such as you can do a web service request. You can integrate with other products using SNMP traps, or you can directly go to Tivoli, or you can do emails, those kinds of things, or an external script, like a shell script or something. A lot of different ways you can handle an event inside surveillance. We provide the whole enterprise-wide monitoring solution right here. So in addition to the alerting and event aspects of surveillance, we also have our real-time monitoring, and this is where a lot of the information is. We'll go ahead and get started with with some windows regarding multiplex. So if you're running an IQ multiplex, either in version 15.3 or later, where you can have things like plex Q queries, or you can do, or if you're running at 15, you can have multiple writers, or if you're running even in older versions, we monitor multiplex. We have a multiplex health window here, where you can see, it varies from version to version, but this is a 15.3 instance. You can see the physical servers and their statuses, the different roles of the servers, the different statuses. So we have about 10 servers here. 2 of them are excluded right now. The rest of them are online. If they went offline, you'd see that on here, and they turn red or something like that. And, of course, you can also get an alert on that as well. You can see connection information. Now, as Rob mentioned, we have a little bit of monitoring that's really nice for things like PlexQ queries. When you have PlexQ queries, or DQP, I believe, going out, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot to see inside IQ itself because there are actually query fragments that get executed on the various servers. You don't actually see that in currently running SQL. Pretty much the only way to see that right now in 15.3 and in 15.4 even is you have to look at the IQ message file query plans, or you have to look at the HTML file query plans, and then you can see more about the information about the PlexQ query. But one of the things, so even though you can't see them directly, one of the most basic things you need to know is what servers they could have run on. And so we provide a view of the logical servers. The logical servers, of course, are virtual kind of servers that are made up of different nodes in the physical IQ multiplex. And here we can see we have 3 logical servers: accounting, HR, sales. And we have a breakdown, a little graph of what is in there. So in the sales one, there's a tooltip that pops up, and you can see the various breakdown of it. The bluish the bluish item on there is the online writer nodes. The orange one is the coordinator nodes, and then you'd have various other colors for offline and online reader and writer nodes. And of course, you can also see the numbers here as well. And this gives you an idea of how many nodes were part of that logical server at that time. And of course, you can also go back in time with this window. We'll see that a little bit more in the flashback in a little while. But this, you can actually go back in time as well to see how many. So if you know when the PlexQ query started, you can go and see how many could have been part of it. As well as we also have a breakdown of what the statuses are of those nodes that are part of those logical servers. So you can see here that in the case of the sales logical server, it's made up of a coordinator and a writer, and they're both online. And if I was flashing back to the time that a PlexQ query started, you could at least see what possible nodes they could have been on and then what their statuses were at that particular time, if you're diagnosing an issue with a PlexQ query that happened an hour ago or 24 hours ago or whatever. So we have a very nice breakdown of the multiplex and the logical servers, especially in 15.3 and 15.4. We also have information on Multiplex Interconnect, so on the MIPC. Here you can see the different servers. You can see the public state, the private state, the private connect information, the public connect information. In IQ 15.3, you have the ability to specify additional interfaces, additional MIPC options, and you can see all of them here. You can see 2 of them are down right now. They've been excluded, so they're not responding at the moment. Over on the heartbeat window, we have the heartbeat information about the different servers, the last heartbeat, the timeout, and also the connection pool information. So the communication between the servers, you can see here how many connections are there, how many idle connections, what's the connection pool sizes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So again, if you joined us late, it'd be good if you could mute your.
Sorry, I have them.
If you could mute your line with the *6, I believe is the thing on there, or you can mute that on your own system there. Just don't put us on hold, though, as Mike mentioned. So additionally, we have, that's the multiplex aspects of the monitoring. We also have parts of the monitoring that apply to multiplex and non-multiplex, and that really starts with our health window. In our health window, we provide an overall view of the IQ system. You can see the configuration of the system. This is an IQ 15.3 system. You can see the current activity, the number of connections, the number of open transactions, the number of IQ threads, the CPU utilization. That's not normalized, though. We have storage sizes, the main usage, the local temp, and then on 15.3 we can scroll down to shared temp as well. And if this starts out as green and then it turns to yellow and then turns to red as the drums fill up. And of course you can also get alerted on that as well. The IQ memory breakdown is here. We see the main usage, the temp usage, the heap, the cache, all the critical components of the IQ memory usage. We have buffer utilization, cache miss percent. The very important other versions is on here as well. Because of course, if your other versions grows without bound, you got some troubles going. We have disk IOs per second. My screen's a little bit too large, too small to get onto the rest of the screen here. But the disk IOs per second, the client IOs, and the active transactions are on here as well. So a lot of information you can get at right away for either multiplex or non-multiplex systems. Rob, what do you feel are some of the more important metrics to monitor in an IQ system these days?
Right. Well, is it possible for you to scroll to the right a little bit? Because I think your horizontal scroll bar at the bottom, if you can, I don't know if you can, but if you can scroll to the right, I think people can see the other stuff that is there. Anyway, while you're trying to do that, exactly. So what you see here is what I think are two really important things that every DBA wants to keep an eye on, namely the temp space usage and the older versions. Because if either of those kind of fills up, or there's too much old versions in the system, that can bring your IQ system to a halt. So if I would be using surveillance as a DBA, I think this screen that you're showing would be the place where I would check back. That would be the first place to check back if I would be interested in the health of my IQ server.
Yeah, there's a lot of information on the screen that gives you kind of an overview of what's going on. But in addition to the overall stuff that we have here, we also can go down to the connection level. We can see what the connections are out there. You can see the logical server that it's on, for example, and you can see the user, the application. You can look at things like cache reads. I'll go ahead and refresh this a little bit. You can see cache reads and disk I/O and number of IQ threads. You can see all sorts of things about the last request time, IQ command type. In terms of the client side, you can see the client application, the client IP address, the client host, client PID, those kinds of things. So you can figure out which ones are using the most resources at this level, and then you can also drill down, or I should say you can also kill connections directly from here and do a few management kind of things. Going back to our multiplex window for just a moment, from here you can also do a couple of management actions as well. You can assign roles, writers, and failovers. You can exclude servers, rename servers. So there's also a right-click actions available in a lot of these windows. But in this case, back to our connection window, we can drill down and see some of the detail on this. You can see here we show the SQL command that's executing it here, and we're getting that from IQ, but then in some cases IQ doesn't show anything, so we get that from the SQL Anywhere that's underneath as well. So there are some commands that are actually at the SQL Anywhere level for this particular process, and we get those as well in here. You can also see the temp table usage, temp workspace. We can see transactions down here at the bottom, cursors, locks, if there are any locks out there. And then additionally, I don't have it on this particular server at the moment, but you can also see recently executed SQL in many cases. What we're actually doing is we can actually mine the IQ SQL log file and get the SQLs that have been running. So for this particular process, I could actually click on that tab and see all of the SQL that's been running recently based on the IQ SQL log. And then we also have an additional window where you can see that overall for the whole system as well. But even without that, though, we have the ability to take a look at the currently running SQL. And with the currently running SQL, we can see all the SQL that's out there right now. Before we were looking at it by connection, now we're looking at it by SQL statements, and you can see the user, the application, the thread count, the start time, the elapsed time. You can see which one's been running out there the longest. In this case, I have a wait for delay that's running out there. It's part of a blocking scenario I'll show you in just a moment. And then some other various commands. This is on a coordinator. And then you can also drill down on that as well. So you can come in both ways, either by connection or by currently running SQL. I mentioned there's a blocking scenario going out there for blocking situations, such as you could have on the coordinator, for example. We have a block tree graph here. You can see the various nodes on here, and they start out green, and then they turn yellow, and then after they've been blocking for 2 minutes or more, then they suddenly turn red. And you can, of course, hover over here, get more information with the tooltip, and right-click and drill down on that as well. You can also take a look at open transactions on the IQ server. We can take a look at main storage, temp storage. Maximize this here. Create time, elapsed time. So you can take a look at all the ones, even if they're active or committed. You can see these kind of transactions. As well as we can also take a look at version use. So this is the kind of stuff that you get out of, for example, SPIQ version use is on here. And we also have information on locks individually. You can see here on the coordinator, again, we have a locking scenario going on the coordinator where you can do the kind of lock table commands that you normally can't do on the other servers. We monitor that on there as well. And then we also have information from SPIQ statistics, all the various information you can get out of that. Very useful command. We also have a breakdown of DB space information. So if you have multiple DB spaces or even a single DB space, we have a window for that. And for that, I'm going to switch over to our web interface to give you an idea, because right now we're looking at our Windows client. We can also take a look at it through a web interface as well. You can see here. You can also see the DB space information here. You can see the system main. I have about 65% used. I have a system temp. I have a share temp. Share temp being the DB space that you need in order to do PlexQ queries. You can see the total size, the writable, stripe size, the number of read-write files, and that kind of stuff. We can also drill down on this, and we can see information about the individual files and the percentages for that. We can also see last backup information and that kind of stuff. So either way, you can look at it either through the main window or you can look at it individually. So if you have like the VLDB option in IQ and you have a lot of different DB spaces out there, this is a great tool for monitoring that aspect. Switching back to the Windows client, we also have information on system settings. So here, if you're trying to figure out which settings are different based off of the default value, we show you a nice little view that shows only the ones that are actually changed from the default values. Here you can see I set max query parallelism to 2 because I was using PlexQ. We also have query plane after run and query timing so that we can get some query planes into the IQ message file. And I'll come back to that in just a moment here. But we also have all of the public options. You can change them easily. You can, on the other screen, you could actually reset them back to the default if you'd like. We have user options out there as well as server options. So the server options are typically like the startup options. So if we wanted to set the ability to set logging, we could actually come in here and right-click, change the value. It asks us for authentication. Anytime you do any kind of management kind of action, we're going to be doing some kind of authentication. So go ahead and do that. And the new value here, I want to do SQL logging on this. And we can come in here, and I'll go ahead and just refresh this aspect here. And you can see now we're doing SQL level logging. Of course, there's a couple other parameters that you need to set in order for that to work as well. In addition, we also have backup summary information. I don't have currently any backups off of this system, unfortunately. And then we also have login policies as well. This is a nice aspect of IQ that you can go in here and specify a lot of different things for the different logins. So going back to the information here about the query plans, one of the reasons you might want to turn on query plans is because then we're able to mine various data out of there. We can do additional information such as table usage and column usage, similar to how you can get information from SPIQ table use or SPIQ. There's various other ones that are like that. We mine the IQ message file for that information, and we can actually generate reports off of that. So to give you an idea of what the reports look like, let me switch over to some screenshots. That'll give you a little bit better idea of our report viewing program that provides a lot more long-term information in terms of historical trends and things like that. Let me just go through here. So you can see the kinds of reports that we can generate with surveillance, things ranging from active versions to activity to disk I/O to SQL analysis, that kind of thing. And you can see the kinds of reports that we do. This is a line graph over about a day's worth of time, I think it is. On the left side, you can actually see we're generating this for 2 different SAMs, 2 different servers. And then we have the main IQ buffer utilization. This is a trend line going up over a couple of months, and again, generated over a couple servers. And then the actual information we can get out of the IQ message file, we can actually look at the query plans and take a look at the usage of the tables and the columns and things like that. And you can see here, for example, that the Add IQ tab table I've been accessing it 3,800 times with a total access time of, I think that's 32 minutes. Total rows retrieved was about 26,000. A nice analysis of the table usage, as well as another report for column usage as well. Okay, so going back to here, I also want to go back and cover one other thing about the real-time interface is that we can actually open up the health window, for example. And you can see that the graphs are backfilling. I can actually take this back in time with our flashback feature. So up here at the top, we have some DVD-like controls, or Blu-ray-like controls, I guess, nowadays. And you can actually go back in time. I can go back a minute ago, and now we're flashing back to a minute ago. I could go back 10 minutes ago, and I'll go back another 9 more minutes. Or I can even go to, let's say, yesterday at this particular time, tell it to go. And here I am looking at data from yesterday at this time period. The amount of data that's in our local cache repository is by default 7 days worth of data, but you can also modify that and control that amount. So I could go back to today or yesterday. I could go back to even last week and see information. And then I can open up different windows and correlate that information to diagnose my issue. And then I can also flash right back to the future, and here I am back to the present. Now, I mentioned earlier about how we generate alerts. The alerts can be generated, and they can give you pop-ups. They can give you, like, we'll give you a little pop-up in the lower right corner of the Windows machine, for example, and that kind of thing. We can review the alerts that have come by looking at our alert window at the bottom of the screen here. You can see some of the alerts that I've gotten recently. I had a message log file error recently, and then I had some Linux issues down here, and then I had my blocking scenario that we saw earlier. I can actually right-click on here. These are color-coded red and yellow and those kinds of things for warning or for errors. And I can actually open up the collection window associated with this particular event. So here I am. I'm going to look at the blocking scenario as it is right now. And you can see here the kinds of things that I can see. But I can actually even right-click and open this at that particular time. So even if this alert occurred yesterday at 2 o'clock, I can still come in here and actually open up that window at that particular alert time. So this is where it all comes together, our real-time, our flashback, our alerting facility. All of that comes together to provide you a nice, easy way to monitor performance issues, availability issues, and those kinds of things. Okay, so we'll go back to the slide set. And just to wrap up the slide. So some of the surveillance advantages over other products that do monitoring, as well as over out of the default monitoring in IQ in SEC, we have rapid installation, configuration, and deployment. You install this to Bradmark Surveillance. It's immediately available. The Windows client, the web interface, all those things are immediately available to you on that server as well as Essential Server. So you have a very flexible setup for that. It's also an easy integration with whatever systems you have with alerts to things like Tivoli or Netcold or other products, SNMP tracks. We have user-defined collections, and we also have lightweight agents, lots of rules that come out of the box. And a very enterprise-wide system with the central alert server and the multi-server historical data. We have full coverage for the Sybase environments. Again, we cover all of the Sybase products, such as ASC, RepServer, and IQ. We support IQ. Actually, this should be 12.6. I think we dropped support for 12.5 recently. And we go all the way to 15.3, and then next week we'll be having 15.4 support as well. And that's Bradmark Surveillance is always up to date with the Sybase products, and we're always supporting the latest versions. So you can be confident that we'll have surveillance available for your version of the Sybase products. We have a very unique common architecture across the different platforms, whether you're running Windows or Unix flavors or Linux, where we support that. And then we maximize your availability, and we are Sybase's recommended solution for top-tier performance monitoring. So now we can open it up for questions.
Great, Ed. Thanks very much. I appreciate the presentation, and thanks to Rob as well. And we're going to go to the live Q&A now. And what we'll do, again, as I said earlier, if you actually want to ask a live question, you do need to be dialed in by telephone. And I believe we actually have one live question waiting for us already. Rex, are you there? *6 to unmute your phone.
Yes, I just wondered if the admin task, like changing an option value, logged into a historical database with the user ID so that those changes can be seen for later review by other DBAs or management as well. And then following up on that, is there a way to do an administrative task for multiple servers at the same time rather than one at a time?
On the second question, it's one at a time right now. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch the first part of the question. Could you repeat that?
I wondered if the administrative changes were logged anywhere into a database or file for review later on after that admin task had been completed.
No, the administrative changes that you make are just going to be done directly, and then whatever auditing mechanism you already have in place, that's going to take care of logging that. But we don't actually do that currently. We don't do that ourselves. In terms of administration on the IQ database, in terms of our product itself, we do write to an audit log for that kind of stuff. And then the second part of the question, as I mentioned before, is that you can only do administrative actions on one server at a time right now.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks very much, Rex. Appreciate that. We got some questions that came in over the console while we're talking. Again, if you do want to ask a live question, please let us know using the feedback mechanism. You can also raise your hand in the Q&A console as well, which helps us determine that. One of the questions there has to do with whether Bradmark has some functionality to determine which stored procedures are taking longer than a specific amount of time.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to see the running time of various things. We saw the currently running SQL in the product, and you can see that to figure out what's currently taking the longest amount of time. And then, as I mentioned, we have the recently executed SQL window, where we actually mine the IQ SQL log, and we can see the various execution times on there. We can show you the longest running ones from that as well. I didn't have that available for demonstration, unfortunately, today, but that actually ties into another question somebody asked, why is physical memory unavailable? That's because I'm not actually on my monitoring agent is not actually local to that database at the moment. So that's why I'm not able to see it. But normally when you install the product locally to that server, you can actually see the physical memory available on that IQ system.
Okay, and that makes sense. Great. Richard, if you're there on the telephone, *6 to unmute. Please go ahead and ask your question.
I was wondering if you have SQL Anywhere support for the surveillance product.
We don't have it as a separate monitoring piece at the moment, but we do fully support the SQL Anywhere that's inside of IQ, and we do support the SQL. If you're running Rep Server, for example, the RSSD can be on the ASA system, so we support that as well. So we support ASA in various capacities in terms of IQ and Rep Server, but we don't actually support it as a separate monitoring module at this time.
Are there any plans to do that?
I think it's based on feedback from customers. So if you contact us, then we'll be able to add it to the list of people who are interested in it. And when we're able to get to a good amount of people, I think we'd be happy to do that, something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Amit, if you're there on the telephone, *6 to unmute. Please go ahead and ask your question. Amit, are you there? Perhaps not.
Yeah.
Amit, is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question, please. Hello?
Hi, this is Surosh. Actually, I have a question. What is the performance impact if I install this performance monitoring tool? And what is the repository for this tool?
Specifically about the repository, what are you asking about?
I mean, where you are storing this information which you are collecting from different databases. Let's, for example, I have an environment with Oracle, Sybase, and Microsoft SQL Server is running, and I have registered all databases, and I like to keep monitors. So where are you able to store the information for historical purpose?
Okay, the historical data, well, we keep data first. We put data in the local cache repository, which is just a set of flat files that we have that's actually on the same server that where our product is installed at. And that's for local data for like a flashback data for a day or 7 days worth of data, so you can go back in time a little bit for the real-time interface. Then we can export that data to a real database like an ASE or Oracle or SQL Server, whatever database you'd like. And then it's inside that database you can access the data using SQL or through our reporting tool or through your reporting tool or whatever you like once it's there. And the other part of your question about the resource usage, at the OS level, it's less than 5%, and then inside IQ, we try to keep it under 5% as well in terms of an impact.
Okay. Can I ask you one more question, please?
Sure.
Okay. The other thing is, I like to see that I have seen there are so many alerts out there. Is there any way that we can group our system? Let's say, for example, I have some sales system and some marketing system, so I like to group some of my databases, like, for example, Oracle SQL Server and Sybase in one group for sales, so I can send an email if anything happened to the database, to the DBA, those are supporting the sales system, and there's a group those are for other alerts. I can send email or notification to the other group.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to do that. You can set up different event handlers for different types of events that are coming in, and one set of handlers could do emails to one set of DBAs, another group handler could send an email to another group of DBAs, and the way you can differentiate, and the way that the handlers differentiate the events can either be explicitly, you can specify, even down to the event level, this event goes to this group, this event goes to this group, or on this server, this event goes to this group, and this server, goes to that group. Or you can also create copies of the rules and make changes to the rule names in order to be able to do like wildcards and stuff like that. So there's different ways that you can specify that this particular set of events on this set of servers go to this group, and these events go to a different group.
Okay. Currently, I'm using Config Ignite for monitoring. Is there any way that I can get the software for evaluation? I can do a comparison.
Yes, we can. We can contact you about doing that. No problem.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you very much for your question. We have another question, live question. Ray, *6 to unmute. Go ahead and ask your question, please. Go ahead.
Show the threads, the number of threads used per SQL base, and so that later on we could do the, for example, search by particular table and to see how many threads being used.
Well, you saw the number of threads that in the currently executed SQL window. You can see the number of threads assigned to the SQL statement. You're asking for something more than that, right?
That's correct. For example, it may be ordered by or grouped by, because due to the particular SQL, right? And we try to figure out why it may be in certain SQL only using very few threads. So we kind of want to do some particular search inside the monitor data.
Well, we show the number of threads per SQL. Is that what you're looking for?
And could you drill down maybe, for example, to the operation nodes, or it's not being captured?
Are you talking about for distributed queries?
Yes. No, just only the simple. For example, the complex report, you maybe do a lot of the nodes operations. For example, hash join and the group by. And each node maybe have a different number of threads.
I see. So at the query plane level, you're talking about each node, the number of threads per node in the query plan.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we don't currently show that at the moment. However, we are parsing that information, and I think that we will have that available in a future version for next year. I think we'll have something available for that.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much for your question. Appreciate that. We had a couple of questions over the console. One of the questions is there a command line tool as part of surveillance that extracts the DDL or schema of all the objects belonging to a particular login or group? They're looking for something that's not GUI and command line specific.
That's the objects that are part of what?
The objects belonging to a particular login.
The login. We don't have anything for particular login, but we do have we have a command line interface to all the data that you saw. So you get the command line, you can get that information, and we do have a collection for a particular DB space, the objects that are in there. But if you needed something for a particular login, that would be very easy to do with the user-defined collection.
That's it.
Hello, Mike. You still on the line?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much. And last question we've got on the console is asking if surveillance can tell if the transaction is using the main or temp cache.
We can see the main and temp usage on there. I don't think we have anything that's specific that tells you for sure whether what the cache usage is per item. Unfortunately, at this time.
Okay. Thank you. We do have another question. Ernie, if you are on the telephone, *6 to unmute. Go ahead and ask your question, please.
this is Ernie. I'd like to check, if how many clients you have using this product that is integrating with Tivoli, for alert notification.
Yeah, so the number of people that we have integrating with Tivoli is actually quite high. It's actually, we have different integrations with things like HP OpenView and IBM Tivoli and SNMP Traps and things like NetCool and other products, SCOM, those kinds of things. But definitely Tivoli is our number one item that people integrate with. We have many customers that are on that. We can give you exact number. We can give you a little bit better numbers offline here, but we definitely, it's our number one integration. Number one console integration that we do.
So is that an easy, thing to kind of, set up or?
Yeah, that can. I can go just switch over here to my desktop for just a moment. I can show you what that looks like just real quickly. If we come into our event handler, you can see here we can come into our Tivoli integration. And you specify a couple of things. You have to specify just a little bit of information for Tivoli, and then you can specify severity message, and it's pretty much ready to go. So it's fairly simple to do that. The hardest part is setting up Tivoli to do it. Just making sure that you're handling it the way you want to.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I believe that is all the questions that we have today. Oh no, we have one more question. I think it's Roby, if you're on the telephone, and please use *6 to unmute your phone and go ahead and ask the question.
Yes, my question is regarding the authentication on this software. I guess it needs a special login or some sort of assay role to the IQ server in order to do the monitoring?
Yes, we require DBA to do the monitoring.
Right, so would this software be used by application as well, or would there be authentication to use this software?
Yeah, you can create different logins to the Bradmark software itself. We have different things to manage those logins. So you can create different logins for different groups of people.
Okay, I see. And also, I wanted to know for your data flashback, right? Are you looking at the data for your local repository?
Yes. Yes,
okay,
the data that's on that same server.
I see. So is that the reason why you keep it 7 days, or would there be a performance impact? Let's say I configure it to 30 days. Then would that slow down your software?
You can go 1 week, 2 weeks, a month. That's no problem. When you get into several months of data, then it becomes more of an issue. But you can go to 30 days with it, depending on how much data it is, because there are a few collections that are just a tremendous amount of data that you wouldn't want to keep 30 days of data. But most of the collections are fairly small, so you could do that. Okay.
Does your software go back and look? Because you mentioned that you can export it to I guess Sybase ASC or something. Does your software then can be configured to connect to there so that I can use the same feature to look at it, or do I have to port the data back into a flat file somehow? Like if I really want to look at really old monitoring data, like 6 months old, let's say.
Yeah, we have a separate program, a report viewer program that can generate reports off of that really old data. The product, the real-time monitoring can go into ASC and monitor ASC, but you can't access that historical data. That historical data is through our reporting system, and you can generate all different reports like CPU usage or thread usage or memory usage or whatever over time.
Okay. Okay. Now, for MPX, where would you install your software? Would you install it at the coordinator, or what would be a right place to install the software?
Well, for any of the Sybase clustering technologies, such as IQ Multiplex, we suggest to install the software on each node of the multiplex or each node of the cluster, and that way you're able to, on the coordinator, you're able to see certain things, a lot of things that are they're cluster-wide. But on the other nodes, you still can see things like our health window for that particular node. So you would still install it on each box of the multiplex.
Oh, I see. So you actually install the software on all the boxes, and you have on the central monitoring that you can see all of them. That's how it works. You could. You install on each one so that you can browse to each of the boxes, and you can see the health window for each one. You can see the individual main usages. You can see the memory usages, things like that. What I was showing earlier was just on that particular coordinator, but you can see that
a lot of the stuff I showed you is on each node as well.
I see. Okay. Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much. And that wraps up all the questions we've got today. So we'll go ahead and close today's meeting. Big thank you to Ed and the folks at Bradmark for presenting today, and also for Rob for participating today as well. We did have a question. I hope everybody saw the answer on the console about the questions on getting the slides. We'll have a copy of the slides available along with the recording of this meeting online, hopefully before the end of this week. And for those of you who are looking for a copy of Rob's book that was coming as part of attending today, we will be going to, those books will be sent out to the address that you entered into the system when you registered for this event. So that's how you get a copy of the book. I'm not sure exactly when they'll be sent out since it's just coming out today. It may be a few days, a couple of weeks or so before those get mailed, but I expect it won't be too long. So that will wrap up today. Everybody, thank you very much for attending. Appreciate your time today. And have a good night. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.